All right, we're back again after like a month break or so, and Chantel's back with me
Hello.
finally. It's been a little while since you've been in one.
Yeah, it has.
For this episode, we're going to start a little series on I guess we're calling it the definitive history of Alaskan Tapes.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to sort of talk about my history with music and how that all started, and I've mentioned it a bunch of times in episodes in the past, but I guess giving an actual timeline here it'll be fun. Going
Yeah.
down memory lane and stuff. There's a lot of aliases and stuff that I've, had over the years that is like, oh my god.
You've blocked them out at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I blocked them out. Yeah, I really do. But they're still up on the internet, If you hear a name or anything in this episode and you want to go look it up, they're still there. Just racking in the one view a year whenever I go and look it back up again. But yeah, where should we start?
Let's start with your drumming history, because that was kind of the first instrument you really got into, right?
Yeah. First instrument for sure. And what I thought was going to be the only instrument for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time there. Yeah, when I was a really little kid, I would play pots and pans in the kitchen with little chopsticks or what are the wooden spoons, the big ones. And I think there's like some home videos and stuff that my mom took, of me playing, which is always fun.
We should find those.
We really should find those. I'm sure they're on that camcorder that she found recently that she's trying to convert from VHS to digital. But I mean, that was it for a long time. Like, I guess technically when I was like 5, I got one of those little kid kits, like the really mini kits that only had a bass drum, and I guess technically it's 2 toms and 1 cymbal, but they're not really that. And they had plastic drum kits, stuff you get from Toys R Us or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was blue. It had blue and stars on it.
Cute.
I don't know
How long
whatever.
did you use that one for?
Oh, maybe 6 months at the longest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody stabbed a drumstick through the head and it wasn't usable anymore,
Somebody as in you, or?
No, probably my brother.
Oh.
Yeah, I doubt I would. I mean, maybe if I was hitting it too hard. But that was like really little, like 5 years old.
Yeah.
It wasn't really anything significant. I don't know if I was actually playing anything rhythmically or whatever, because nobody in my family was there to teach me either. Nobody really knew anything musically for the most part. But that was that. And then I guess I got my first drum kit. So throughout elementary school, a lot of my friends had drum kits. And I remember going to their houses and playing. And I could play some basic beats and stuff. And that's how I sort of learned. I got them to teach me. And then I feel like I played it a little bit in school whenever like the actual drummer of the class was away for the day or whatever.
So you knew how to read the notes and everything back then?
No.
Oh, no.
I would just hear the song, play whatever you wanted with sort of whatever the class was playing.
Because that's how I've always known you to play. Like, you would always just throw your headphones on, put a song on, and follow it. Yeah,
learn it that way. I feel like that's majority of drummers out there, especially playing, metal music like I did.
It's not common to, like, read the sheet music.
No. I had a book of, like, rudiments that, it was basic notation with, whenever the snare or the kick would hit. But it was mostly for the rudiments. It was mostly for the rhythms,
cool. Yeah.
But that was the farthest I ever got with reading notation for drums,
So how old were you when you got your first real drum kit?
In my mind, it's either 12 or 13. I feel like it was 13. But it would make more sense if I was 12.
Why?
Because I feel like I remember playing a lot in elementary school, right?
Oh, okay.
At least a couple years worth. Because my friends were also really getting into drumming, and like we were all expanding our kits at Christmas. We'd ask for a new cymbal or something. And so that was all happening at the same time, and it wouldn't make sense if that only happened for a year. or less than a year. Because it must have been for my birthday. It must have been for my birthday, which is in October. And so if that was like my grade 8th year, that would have been for the whole thing. It must have happened when I was 12. It must have. I don't know, though.
Do you know, because you keep talking about how all your friends at the time were also getting into drumming and stuff. Did any of them do anything with drumming or?
Not past high school. They were all in band and stuff. Like,
oh, okay.
My friend Connor, I don't know what he did past like grade 9, but he was really good. He was like the other kid at school that was really taking drums pretty seriously. I feel like everybody else just sort of had a kit, but they were playing guitar or bass most of the time. And then whenever I would go over, I would just jam with them on their kits.
That's so cool. I never had friends that had instruments like that, I don't think.
But for any drummers that are listening, I'm going to go like, it's a nostalgia thing. Whenever I think of my first drum kit, it was like a CB kit. That's what it's called. It's like the lowest grade. And it was black. And I had these, a CB hi-hat, which was essentially just brass. It was super thin. I actually really liked them because they sounded super trashy.
Oh,
you know,
cool.
Whenever I would go to my friend's house and they would have real hi-hats, it sounded too clean to me because I was playing metal. I wanted everything to sound like a China cymbal, essentially. But then I also had some really cheap Sabian B8 cymbals, and I played Sabians for, I think, the entire time that I had an acoustic kit. And it's interesting because drumming is like one of the things with guitars where you can have the worst drum kit in the world and put some pretty good drum heads on it, like Remos or Evans or something, and it sounds great. You know, you don't have to have a $1,500 kit to sound good. It's just like guitars, right? You can have a really crappy guitar, put some really good strings on it, and sounds good, you know?
True.
But I remember for the first little while, I only had one kick pedal, and I wanted to play double kick. And I don't know how long it took me to get a double kick pedal. It must have been, so if I got the drum kit in October, it must have been Christmas that I got the double kick pedal. And I remember it was this chain-driven, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Gibraltar.
Okay.
That's the company. Really low-end kick pedals, but man, it was awesome. When I first got that double kick, like, probably sounded so bad because the drums were in the basement and they would just echo through the whole house. You know, my house wasn't big when I was growing up. It was tiny. So I'm sure everybody loved that.
But your basement always had a door on it, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much a door did, though, honestly. You could hear the drums from outside.
Yeah,
right?
I remember that, passing by your house. Oh, Brady's playing drums.
Yeah, exactly. But that was so fun. It's so fun. It was so fun having an acoustic kit because you could, like, I would spend hours just reconfiguring it, you know, 1 tom up, 2 toms down. Even though I didn't have 2 floor toms, I would like rack the 12-inch tom to beside me or on the other side of me. So it was like a triangle kit. What
gave you those ideas, like, to explore different layouts and stuff?
Other drummers on YouTube and stuff. Like, you'd watch like Luke Holland or Rudy, what's his name? I don't remember his name. Or Troy Wright, you know, and you'd be like, oh, that's cool. I can see everybody loves the 1 tom up, 2 toms down, and I do too still. That's what I play on my electric kit now. I just never liked the traditional 2 toms up, 1 tom. It was just, I don't know. I liked having my ride cymbal like right beside me, and having the 2 toms up top forced you to put your ride beside the floor tom. It was just too far.
So the layout of a drum kit, does it just have more to do with what is easier for your, like, arms and wrists when it comes to playing, or does it, because it doesn't actually change the sound of anything?
Yeah, it's just whatever your comfortability is.
Yeah. So you were really just trying to figure out, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You played around with different formations to figure out what's your favorite.
Yeah, and I would flip my cymbals and, like, so you know how cymbals normally stand on the stand? Mm-hmm. I would, if I had
You'd have like the dome part up top, or no, the dome part's usually up top.
Yeah,
and
the dome part.
You would flip it so that the dome part is inverted, right?
But if it was a boom arm, I would flip the boom arm so that it was hanging because it would sustain for longer.
Oh, wow.
because there was less surface area or something. I don't know if it actually did that. That was what I told myself. So, but you'd also be able to fit stuff in, configuring all the boom stands and all the drums in certain ways.
Wow.
And that stuff was really fun. And like I always loved having my hi-hat where it normally is. It's pretty hard to explain with no visual. The hi-hat where it normally is, and then having the splash right beside it, right beside the small tom. But yeah, having the splash right there was always fun because you could do like little rolls on the hi-hat to a splash and then the snare, come up with really cool beats like that.
Cool. When you first started playing drums, were you going off of like listening to songs and playing along, or would you kind of just sit there and practice what did you call it?
Rudiments?
Yeah, the rudiments.
I wish I practiced rudiments. God, that would have made me a lot farther in like skill than I am now, honestly. But, being 13, 14, I just wanted to slam the drums. So I would always just listen to music and play it, like the really slow Avenged Sevenfold songs at first. Or what other songs was I playing at the time? Blink-182.
Dear God, Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah, that song is actually interesting because I love drum covers when I first started playing drums, so I wanted to make drum covers on YouTube. But I didn't have a whole mic system. I didn't even know how that worked at the time. But I did record myself on my mom's digital camera playing to it, and then on like Windows Movie Maker, I put Dear God underneath. And I remember it was a thing because like I was doing it and listening to it, and I was like, this is how I'm learning that I'm actually off. I never played with a metronome and stuff. Like in my head, I was playing it perfectly when I was playing it, but then I would listen to it back. I'd be like, wow, that is not even close. And so it actually improved my playing a lot because I think at the time, I must have known what a metronome was, but I never played with one. And I wish I did, much like the rudiments.
Yeah.
It would have just been, instead of focusing on how fast I can play, like actually playing interesting parts would have been a lot better, But yeah, that was really fun. And then just like older songs that I had known for a long time, like a lot of Killswitch Engage songs, like I would play or at least attempt to play. It was really fun. And like, I don't know, the when you start an instrument or whatever, the progression is so fast. It's like really addicting. And then when you get to a point where you're fairly comfortable and you're not learning all that much because of ignorance, really. Like if I had practiced rudiments, that would have continued, or practicing with a metronome, that would have continued. But, I feel like I hit a plateau, and not that it got boring, but, I feel like that's what led me into music. But once again, I'm getting ahead of myself because I do want to get into like my second kid and all the cymbals and stuff like that.
Yeah. I just wanted to get a little bit more into like your inspirations in terms of artists and stuff, because I feel like it was metal music that inspired you with your drumming and that you used when you were learning to play drums. But around 13 years old, you also started playing the keyboard.
A little bit, yeah.
And what songs were you playing on the keyboard?
Oh, okay. So to give context on the keyboard, I guess the only person in my family that actually had a musical bone in them was my grandpa, and he passed away around the same time.
What do you mean? Like at 12, 13?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so he gave us his little, I don't know, it must have been a Yamaha or Casio or something, but, a digital piano. And so it would just sit in the basement near the drums for a long time. But yeah, eventually when I did start wanting to try to tinker around on the piano, I learned the end of This Is Who We Are by As I Lay Dying, which was a really crazy thing because, like, it's not an easy song. Like, it's very beginner, but it's not the most beginner. And that was the only song I knew at the time. I had no interest in, learning Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and stuff. Like, I wanted to actually, much like drums, learn the songs that I actually liked,
With learning that song, were you, again, going off like sheet music or just listening, or did you look up a video?
Yeah, it was definitely on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Looking up a video.
So you were following along.
Yeah. There's those Synthesia videos. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Where the green lines come down with the keyboard and it's all visual. Because I still can't read music, right?
Yeah.
And especially not at that point. Maybe at that point I probably could a little bit more than I can now, actually.
Do you think it's important to be able to read sheet music as a musician, though?
Depends what you want to do.
I guess.
Right? Like if you're wanting to do scores or record any strings or have any session players. Like, you kind of need to be able to, not necessarily like super well, but at least be able to understand it enough to write out what you want to hear. You know? It's just another medium to write music, and it's interesting how inspiring it is to switch up that sort of language.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're writing for strings and stuff.
I was gonna say, I guess the only time that you've used sheet music is when you're getting strings recorded for you, and you have to write out what you want them to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the time when I make music, and obviously this is a whole tangent, most of the time when I'm making music, it's just improvisation until something works. You know, I don't have the theory brain where it's like, I know this is the mood I want to do or write for, and this is how I get there. It's more just like play, and if this sounds nice, then this is what I'm going with, you know. So yeah, I don't, day to day I have no need for sheet music or anything like that. I mean, learning trumpet and cello, it would be extremely helpful if I knew at least a little bit, which I do. I know the very basics of it, but it's mostly just for that. Like, learning instruments, I think it's important, because most of the resources you get other than YouTube are sheet music and stuff. If you go to Long McQuaid's or whatever music store and you pick up cello for beginners, it's going to show, you know, the notes in the score, technically.
Yeah.
You know.
Cool. Okay, getting back to drums. How long did you have that first black kit for?
I'm just going to say, okay, we're just going to go with, I got the CB kit when I was 12, even though it might have been 13, but we're just going to say 12.
Roughly 12, yeah.
I think I got my Thai kit when I was 16.
Okay.
That's just what I'm going to go with. Might have been 15, but I'm pretty sure it was 16.
Was the new kit bought for like an upgrade, or?
Yeah, it was a total upgrade.
Okay.
So the CB kit, I don't know what kind of shell it had, but it was like the worst wood you could make. Like, these CB kits are $300 brand new. We got it used for $100. I think. I could have that wrong. If my mom listens to this, she'll probably be like, no, it was more than that. And then the Thai kit was a 6-piece drum kit, so it had an extra tom, a little 8-inch tom that I ended up turning into a practice pad, which is actually really cool to still have that.
Yeah.
At least I think we do.
Yeah, you do.
And it was not maple shells, but I think it was poplar shells, which is quite a step up. You know, all the kits that I sort of wanted when I was a kid had poplar shells because they were cheap, sounded pretty good, and yeah, were just accessible. But yeah, it was like this maroon red kit with silver hardware, and it was a company I'd never heard of at the time and still barely see, called Thai. I think that's how you pronounce it, Taye. It had like a little moon as a thing. It was really cool. And I liked the hardware. The company Pearl has hardware for the toms that are very rigid and not on ball brackets. But Thai had the ball brackets, so I can essentially move my toms anywhere I wanted. It was
cool.
awesome. And so that just upped the customization aspect of it. And like, it came with, since I had the 6th tom, it came with an extra tom mount that you can mount onto cymbal stands, which was awesome because you could take all your toms off your bass drum if you wanted to. Because I was playing a 4-piece kit for a long time, I would take off two of the toms and just have snare, 10-inch tom, 16-inch tom. But like Travis Barker from Blink-182, he had his tom as low as his snare.
Oh, wow.
It looked so cool all the time. I loved it. And so that's what I did for a long time. And eventually I would actually go down to a 3-piece kit, just snare, 16-inch tom, and bass drum. I really liked that thing because you could have all the cymbals in front of you. And I like cymbals a lot more than I liked toms for some reason. I liked beats, and like, I didn't really like fills.
Oh, okay.
You know, like obviously I did because you get to go around the kit really fast and stuff. But typically I would rather do my fills on the cymbals, little accent notes and stuff like that instead. But around that time, like, I got a lot of upgrades around that time because I got my first job, which allowed me to get better cymbals, better pedals, better hardware in general. Oh, I even bought like a Mapex little 10-inch snare that I still have as well. And that was awesome too, because it was like I think I called it at the time a popcorn snare because it's super high pitch. So you could do like drum and bass on it and stuff. didn't sound pretty good.
At this time, you're making all the upgrades to your drums and stuff, and you're playing a lot, and you're progressing a lot. Did you ever think to either, one, join a band, or two, record yourself and like make your own thing?
I wanted to record myself, but I didn't understand, like, because I still wanted to do the drum covers, because that was still growing on YouTube. I was still watching them every day, multiple, drum covers for my life, essentially, when I wasn't playing drums. And I did want to play in a band. And, me and a few friends had a couple bands that we would jam with, but it was never anything serious, because they weren't willing to take it serious. And then eventually I actually went on, I think it was Craigslist, and I was looking for a band. I wanted to be in a band, right? So I was looking for people that needed a drummer. And I found this group of people, and they were really cool, but I only went to one jam session, I can't remember if they never, like, got back in touch with me afterwards, or if I never got back in touch with them, but we'll just say I never got back in touch with them. But it was really fun. We were playing, like a lot of new metal, like Flyleaf and stuff, like a lot of the rock band songs.
Cool.
But at the time, once again, I wasn't playing to a metronome. I didn't really know how to play with other people, so I was off time. I was rushing, and I was just behind the beat and stuff,
Okay.
which sucked, but that's okay. You kind of have to learn that. But that's when I also learned that I'm not great at working with other people in a band sense, because I don't have full creative control. I didn't want to play Flyleaf. I wanted to play As I Lay Dying.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, So that was a tough sort of learning experience. And that's when I think I also started to not slow down on drums, but take it less seriously. Like, all of a sudden I didn't assume that I was going to be a touring drummer anymore, like I initially wanted to be. I just started playing drums for fun.
And why didn't you record any like covers and post those to YouTube or anything?
I didn't know how the microphones worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't understand audio interfaces. I didn't understand DAWs at the time. And looking back now, like, it's so obvious the way it works. Obviously, I would have had to have a stronger computer or a laptop in order to record those, but it definitely would have been possible, especially since there's so many basic microphone kits for drum kits, like pretty cheap, and they're
really?
like pretty good, like $250, and comes with like 8 microphones.
Oh wow.
So it definitely would have been possible, but yeah, that's the only reason, really.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when I got when I upgraded my double kick pedal to I chose Iron Cobras by Tama instead of the DW 5000s or 9000s or whatever, and it was the best thing ever, because you know what? Maybe I had 3. Okay, so I started with the chain-driven Gibraltars, but then I actually had like leather strap-driven
Oh, okay.
Gibraltars as well, I would assume. And they were awesome, but they were super weird when I went to the Iron Cobras, because they're double chain-driven, so it's like really responsive. And I remember it took me a long time to get used to those, and I was like, wow, I suck at drums now.
Oh.
Like, for a while, like, normally when you change a pair of sticks or cymbals or drum heads or whatever, you get used to it after a session.
Yeah.
But the Iron Cobras took me a long time, and that's what I'm still using now, actually, are my Iron Cobras. But they were awesome because they came in like a carrying case.
Yeah.
And, like, they were so cool. They're like gray and black. And I remember at the time, too, that was when those Pearl, I can't remember what they were called, Demon Drives. They were metal driven, like they weren't chain driven or like strap driven. They were like a whole new mechanism, and that's at the same time that these came out. But they were like $1,000.
Oh wow.
And the Iron Cobras were like 500 or something like that. And I wonder if I should have just saved up a little bit more
And just gotten the upgrade ones.
because they're so cool. I wonder if they still make those. I haven't really looked into any like drum hardware in a long time. And I remember, for so long, I upgraded all my cymbals multiple times except for my ride. Up until we got rid of my acoustic kit, I still had that first ride cymbal that, I don't know if it came with the CB kit, but it was definitely around that time that I got it. you know?
You
Because
just really liked it, or why
I
didn't
did.
you upgrade it?
I did like it. I think it was a Sabian B8, maybe a B8 Pro. The bell was nice and big and just had a really nice like attack to it. And every time I'd play like a Sabian HH or something like that, I always loved it, but I just couldn't hear it on my kit, you know?
Oh, okay.
Whereas like I would upgrade my crashes all the time and my Chinas, of course. There's still, I love China cymbals, and there's the Oriental series by a cymbal company called Wuhan, and they were so cheap, and I never got them. Bands like
August Burns Red.
August Burns Red, yeah,
I used to love them.
they would always use the Wuhan cymbals. So there were those really like trashy ones. Oh, they sounded so
cool.
good. But I never got one for some reason. I just kept my. I think I had a B8 Pro China for most of the time I was playing acoustic drums, and I love my splashes too. I always wanted a China splash, like a China cymbal that's really small. I always wanted one of those, but I never got one of those either.
When you get an acoustic kit in the future, you'll have to make sure you get it.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick. Let's talk about my dream kit right now.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so you're playing drums. You're not recording covers. You're not in a band, but you make an alias and you start making music online.
Yeah.
Didn't you start with drum and bass music? Is that where
I
you
started with dubstep.
Dubstep, okay.
Yeah. So, how old was I? Okay, so timeline right now goes 12 was the first kit, 16 was second kit.
But in between there, you downloaded FL Studio.
Yeah.
At like 13, 14.
Around 13, 14, my stepbrother came to me because he really liked making like stop motion videos, and he was a really funny guy, and he still is. So he wanted to start trying to do YouTube. He never really actually started, but he was like, hey, you're kind of like musically inclined. If there's this music making software, this is how I remember it. I've never actually spoken to him about it. That here's this music making software, pirate it, and try to make some stuff. And so I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So I just downloaded FL Studio off of, Pirates Bay or whatever, which I've since bought. Don't worry. And I remember opening it up for the first time and being like, I don't know how to do any of this. So it sat on my laptop for years. And then, the dubstep, EDM, bro step sort of things started coming into the picture when we were 15, 16.
Yeah, you said Ethan kind of got you into it, right?
Ethan got me into that because he really likes Skrillex.
Yeah.
He was like, whoa, check out this song, First of the Year. It's like crazy. And I guess because it's kind of aggressive, and he knew that we all really liked metal. He was like, check it out. It's crazy. And I was like, this is dumb, man. Like really bad music. Being the metal elitist that you are when you're 14. Or 15 or 16, however old I was. And then, but another first thought of mine, which is a similar thought that a lot of producers from that time had, was, oh, I can make this,
Yeah.
Turns out I cannot make that. But
but you tried.
I looked up, how to do the dubstep wobble bass on FL Studio, and it, allowed me to explore. FL Studio has this native synth called Citrus, which is like just their synth. It has all the oscillators, has all the LFOs, and that's all you really need. And so I learned how to just make a bass that wobbles.
Nice.
And then I'm sure I downloaded some sample packs or something. And then it all happened so quickly. Like I really fell deep down the I was making following 5 tutorials a day, like really learning how to make this dubstep music at the same time as going deep down the rabbit hole of old dubstep and the culture. And I was like, man, this is sick. Like, I don't want to make music like Skrillex. I want to make music like Scream. And that led me into finding Massive. And thankfully the internet was there because I could just pirate anything I wanted, So I didn't have to shell out $300, $400 for Massive. I would just download it, with the risk of getting a virus, and call it a day.
Yeah.
And so I was learning how to make chill wave patches and crazy talking bass patches and all this stuff. And it really, wow, it was just one thing after another with it. And then I was like, I'm going to start releasing this. I think it's pretty good. Wasn't good, but it was something. It had a beat, it had melody kind of, and it had bass. And I thought that was all the ingredients you need for music.
And what was the alias you released it under?
So the very first alias was called A.
Why?
Just A. Because when I would export my songs off FL Studio, at the time there was no Spotify or anything, so it was all music just on my computer. And when I wanted to sort it by artist, I wanted mine to come up first.
Oh.
Because I was just constantly listening to my own music to get better at it.
Yeah.
So that's like the only reason. And then I got this really sick logo made, and it was like a 3D A with like these arrows coming off of it, because I was on like RuneScape botting forums, and I was like, hey, you made a really cool banner thing. Can you make this? And paid $15, and they just did it, which is actually really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that stuff's still on YouTube now. If you type in A official dubstep, there's a Sparta remix.
Oh yeah, I think that's your biggest one, right?
Yeah, and it's just so dumb. Oh my god.
But okay, so did making this kind of music, it was so close to when you were really getting good at drums and stuff, did that have any influence on each other, or they were kind of just completely separate?
Yeah, it definitely did, because I had in dubstep, it's all about rhythm. You know? So if you came up with cool polyrhythms or even just a little bit more interesting drum patterns other than kick snare, I at the time I thought that makes me unique, kind of thing, because I can understand that it could be 16th note ghost kicks here and like extra ghost notes on the snares and stuff like this. If you listen to it now, I don't know how much I actually implemented any of that, especially in the songs that I like, in quotes, released.
Oh, okay.
Because it was all just on YouTube, and it was just for fun. I just wanted to make it real, a little bit. And I was doing like all these remixes because people were sharing acapellas online, and somehow, I don't know who got access to like Britney Spears and Ellie Goulding acapellas, but they were all over the place.
Oh, wow.
You could just type it in Google and somehow somebody would have them, and like Eminem even.
Yeah.
And I remember I wish I knew the actual time, like how long I had been making music before I started showing like my family and stuff. Because I remember I did a remix of Ellie Goulding's Lights, and I recreated that belly synth patch.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, Dan, check it out. I did this, It sounds the exact same, but I did it, I know how they did it now. And he was like, what the hell? This is what you're doing up in your room for all day and night, And then I did like the Eminem one, Till I Collapse, and I like showed Dan. He was like, this is so cool, because Eminem was I think he was into growing up a lot, you know, like really young for him, to the point where he'd like tell his friends and stuff, and that's when it started to suck.
Like, oh, my brother made this.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't like that, because I knew it wasn't actually great, but I was still like, oh my god, I'm making this up in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Just by myself.
You knew it was progress.
It was progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still one of those people who advocate for just like, release your music that you're making.
Yeah.
It'll make you a better producer. It'll make you a better songwriter, because you'll meet people and they'll give you tips. And even if somebody says your stuff sucks, if you're just starting, that probably means that it does suck.
Yeah.
So work a little bit harder to make it better, And, if you're just starting something, you can never expect to be good at it. It's just fun. It was just fun. And like, I actually met people that were starting at the same time. Like, that's how I met. I don't know if he listens to this, probably not, but Celorak. At the time, he was Sleepy Movement. I don't think he wants to ever be known that he's Sleepy Movement, but at least I think so. I think that was him. He always denied it, but I'm pretty sure that was him. And we did a track together. This was later on, not in the A times, but yeah. And then so, anyways, I discovered all that around 16, and it must have all happened in like the same year that I got into drum and bass at the same time, because thankfully, when I was starting, that was like the explosion of all this stuff, and that's when Monster Cat came in. Remember Monster Cat?
I do.
So they were also doing house and drum and bass and drum step, which I loved drum step at the time because I just thought it was different and cool, I guess. Just faster drum and bass. Faster dubstep. And so there was just all this music thrown at you, all the time. And you got to learn it all. And like, thankfully, YouTube is kind of like a forum where everybody's just talking. Comments. At the time, the comment sections didn't suck,
They were given their tips and tricks and
and extra artists and if you like this person, then you'll probably like this person, or check out my music. I've only got 2 subscribers, and then you'd go check out their music and you'd actually make a friend or something, if it was good. I don't know if I ever really did that, but it was possible at the time. There was like a lot of community online in that sense, because everybody thought that they were so underground when it was like the biggest thing in music at the time. And it was really fun times, but it made me go through like 1,000 different aliases, which are, I think, still all up there.
Not just within that genre, though. Like, when you changed your alias, wasn't it because you were starting to change your sound?
Most of the time when I changed my aliases, it was either for a change of sound or just I could tell that the quality was way better.
Oh, okay. So it was when you were improving.
Yeah, I think after I went to drum and bass. And we can get into all the aliases if you want.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get a reminder of what the list is, because there's like 6 of them.
I don't even know if we got them all. Like, you said that you couldn't remember all of them, but you had A, which apparently you only released 3 songs.
Yeah,
under that name.
There was definitely more, but those were the first songs that I had made, and then there was Mount Pleasant.
Before that was Free Flood.
Free Flood.
Which you put out 7 songs.
So, the other sick thing about releasing the music when you're not the best is that you also have to learn how to do all of it. So you're learning how to put together the videos and the artwork. And that got me really into Photoshop, really deep into Photoshop with like the 3D stuff at the time that was really new. And I was making these like spacescapes, with planets and all this stuff. And I was making them from scratch just on Photoshop. It was really cool, and that's what I would use for the Free Flood artwork, and that literally taught me Photoshop at the time. So I went from there, from just messing around with FL Studio, to all of a sudden actually kind of knowing what I'm doing, and also learning Photoshop now. And at the time it was Sony Vegas I was using for video editing. And that lasted a while. I really liked that one. That was all drum and bass. There's a couple good songs. I don't know. They're bad, but they're good, for somebody who had been making music for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Learning all the patches and how to get around Massive and stuff like that.
It's funny because I actually have the timelines here. So, like, it says, I'm sure that you made a lot more songs than just 3, but you only released 3. And you only released them between October 12th and 23rd of 2011.
That's it. 2011.
That's it. Yeah. And then for Free Flood, it was March 6th, 2012. And then you ended it March 24th, 2012. So
really? Wow.
It was just within like
a
a couple of weeks. Yeah. And that one had 7 songs that you released within that time. And then Mount Pleasant, you only released 3 songs from April 24th, 2012 to June 12th, 2012. So
whoa,
you were switching through these aliases really quickly.
Wait, say that again. So for Mount Pleasant, Mount Pleasant was also drum and bass.
Yeah.
Liquid drum and bass.
Yeah.
What were the dates?
April 2012 to June 2012.
That was when we graduated high school. Or
no,
that was going into grade 12?
Yeah, that was going into grade 12.
I was about to say that doesn't make sense.
No, so then you were Quartz. Quartz was when your visuals started turning more into what are those things called where you look through and it's kaleidoscope.
Yeah, I was learning how to do all this video editing.
Yeah, those were cool. I liked those.
I had made that logo with the quartz with the Q and then the Z.
Yeah.
The small one. And that's when I was doing a lot of remix. So I think Quartz was the one that I was like, okay.
You were really just spewing out songs under Quartz.
First of all, they're getting traction.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just getting 1, 2, 10 views. They're getting sometimes hundreds. I think there's one that was like thousands.
And that's probably what made you stick with this alias
the
longest out of those first 4.
That Quartz was also when I started uploading to SoundCloud, because before I never had touched it, as well as Bandcamp, I think.
Okay.
And so I was just doing a lot of remixes at the time. A few
I don't think you had.
originals.
Sorry, I don't think you had Quartz on Bandcamp. I think it was until Oslo. I don't know.
Is Quartz Summer Can Wait? Was that Quartz?
I think so. Yeah.
That was on Bandcamp.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So, another part of all this is, you know, I loved YouTube back when I first started. Like, all of the tiny channels that would promote really underground drum and bass or electronic music in general. And you'd find their email, or I don't even know how else you would do it. And you just send them a track and say, hey, like, I really love your channel. Like, I'd love if you promoted this. And they would. And yeah, they had 54 subscribers. But
it was still reaching
so
like a new
exciting.
community
Like,
too.
You'd gain 0 or 1 fan or something.
Yeah.
You'd see the SoundCloud ticker go up. And you'd be like, oh my God, like, somebody actually likes my music. Like, that's crazy.
So that was when you really started getting excited and...
I started really taking music seriously with Quartz.
Okay.
I was like, Quartz was the time where I was like, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. This is when I started making friends online that were also doing it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I just had all these goals of like, I want to get on Mr. Suicide Sheep. Like, my music fits it. And I did. I
remember that. I'd come to your house and you had like this whole list in front of or on your wall behind your computer of like all these different names.
Yeah.
And it was all just YouTube channels and SoundCloud channels that you were like, I want to get on these ones.
Yeah,
like,
and I would just cross it off as I did. And
you'd write the date too.
Yeah. And Quartz is also the time where I started getting out of drum and bass and more into chill out and down tempo, which was really fun as well.
And that was for a pretty long time. It was from November 2012 to May 2013. So that was your first like long-standing alias, and you released like 36 songs on that one.
36, wow.
Yeah, but you made a lot more than that. I remember.
Yeah, I would send you them all the time.
Yeah.
Wow, so that was almost a year. That feels like such a long time. So, like I said, these are all still on YouTube, I think, unless they've gotten taken down for copyright, some of them. But I remember like I did those Lights remixes. Oh, and the Bring Me the Horizon remix with Lights. And the Parkway Drive remix, you know, and those things still do well.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll just check, you know, it's at 40-something thousand views. And I'm like, why? Like, it's so bad.
Aww.
But that's when I also started recording like my drums on my phone, really bad quality.
And you would use that in your songs?
And I would use that in my songs. Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't like that you would record it and then try and remake it with sample drums online?
I did that too.
Okay.
But, you know, sometimes if I just really liked the way, how lo-fi my kick was, I would use it then. Or the snare, or even cymbals, because it would sound so bad on the phone. But it gave it the human feel because a human was playing it, and also it wasn't perfect. Which I started to really like, because at the time I was starting to get into Future Garage, which is kind of like, that was the thing, trying to make electronic music sound organic, you know, which I really liked and I really gravitated towards, as well as using like the dark imagery. I guess I'm getting into Oslo now.
Yeah.
But I think we should probably leave Oslo for part 2, or we
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Did we speed through that? I feel like we sped through that.
I don't think so. We can always come back and expand on things. But before we end this episode, I think that you should, because I cut you off earlier, tell us what your dream drum kit is, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't even care. When we get a house, I mean, I'm sure we could get it now if we really wanted to. But when we get a house that I feel comfortable playing a kit out loud and not disturbing neighbors.
Which this is the perfect house for that, but that's besides the point.
There's a neighbor right there, you know.
We have no neighbors.
I know, and I'd play during the day while everybody's at work anyways.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I also don't want to deafen Oreo, you know.
He would just bark a lot.
Which is why I want to get into my electric kit too a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the definitive timeline. Let's get into more drums.
Yeah.
Okay, so I desperately want Okay, I want 2 kits.
Acoustic kits?
2 acoustic kits.
Okay.
One for regular metal playing, and then one that's sort of softer that would actually be able to record for Alaskan Tapes music when I'm doing post-rock and stuff.
Okay.
So I want, for the metal kit, I want a DW kit. And I think DW is kind of on their way out. They're declining in quality. You know, a lot of other kits are maybe better now.
Okay.
But I haven't really looked into it for a long time because I've been playing electric kit for so long. I guess we should also say that I stopped playing the acoustic kit pretty much when we moved out.
Yeah, so I
When I
feel
went to
bad
college,
about that. So we rented a basement apartment and we were there for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And it was closer to the end of us being there. We were planning on now moving to renting a top floor, and we knew we were going to be renting for a while. And me, being the declutter queen I am, was like, Brady, this is taking up so much space in our little tiny storage area that we have in the basement. And I feel bad, but I ended up convincing you to essentially sell it.
We donated it.
Oh, I think you tried to sell it. You had, because you did have it up online for a while. Because we put it all together, I'm pretty sure, and you took photos, and unless I don't remember. But anyways, we ended up donating it.
Which I actually feel good about. I'm hoping. I don't actually know.
Looking back, it was the right decision. We rented for so long. You would not have been able to play those drums up until 2020 when we moved into this house.
Yeah, because they were set up at my mom's house for a long time, and then eventually my mom and my stepdad were just like,
they're taking up space.
You have to
here.
take these. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. So they were just under our stairs for a long time. But donating the drums, like, obviously we'll never know, but I hope that, you know, some kid got a really good deal on a pretty good drum kit.
Yeah.
You know, because we donated to Value Village.
Is that what we ended up doing?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
Or is the Salvation Army?
Just like, we'll take that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, hopefully they got given to someone who was going to put some good use into them and stuff.
Yeah, and not just some scalper or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, okay, so back to the dream kit. Okay, so a DW kit, I only want a 4-piece. So a 10-inch tom, 16-inch floor tom, 14-inch snare, 22-inch bass drum. And then I want, what do I want? I don't want Zildjian cymbals. I could go for Sabians. Don't want Pace. What are the, I can't remember what the newer.
I don't know any of these names.
Oh, Meinl. So Meinl cymbals are so sick, and they were always way too expensive when I was growing up.
Okay.
They look sick. They sound amazing for metal. And I want all of them. No, I want a 16-inch crash. I want an 18-inch crash, and I want a 19-inch crash.
Nice.
I want an 18-inch China. And might as well throw in a 19-inch China there too. And I want a 20-inch ride, or maybe 21-inch ride.
So a lot of cymbals.
And a 15-inch hi-hat. And I want a 6, 8, and 10-inch splash. You know,
wow.
Just for some fun. And I want my my mini China, my China splash. And I think that's it. That's all I want. That's it. But then for the Alaskan Tapes kit, I want like an old Ludwig or something.
Oh, cool.
Like from the 80s.
Nice.
Just with some really like vintage Meinls or Sabians. I guess Sabians would make more sense. But another 4-piece kit, and then just like as big of cymbals as you can get. So like a 22-inch ride and like a 20-inch crash. Really deep, and like 16 or 15-inch hi-hats. Like some dark hats. That would be so nice. You know, it'd be so smooth, and like have my sizzle beads for the ride.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
The dream. But for now, you have your electric kit.
Yeah, my Roland TD17 KVX.
Which you have been wanting to upgrade or like add cymbals to, because right now you have just like the basic model, right?
I bought one extra cymbal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did upgrade it a little bit because the module of this kit only had the one extra auxiliary, so I could only add one. There's a way to get more cymbals with splitters. I just wouldn't have like the top of the cymbal, which is fine. I never used it anyways, as like a different zone. An extra cymbal on that would be good. I haven't actually played those in a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a few months actually. But yeah, right now the way it's set up, so like typically it's 2 rack toms and then a floor tom, but I put the rack tom with the floor tom, so it's the 1 up 2 down that I always wanted as a kid, with the ride exactly where I would have it on an acoustic kit. Everything's just smaller. And then I have the crash to my left where it normally is, a crash above the ride, and then in the middle I have my china instead of off to the right,
Okay.
which is where it normally is, which is where I might move it back. But on the second zone of the china, I have a splash. So technically I have all the stuff that I need.
Yeah.
And I've I have my kit too, because they all come with like 60 preset kits, but the prog kit is mine, where I've done all the EQing and all the compression and all the sizes and all this stuff, because all the electric cymbals, like the sounds, they're very thin.
Yeah.
So if you crank it up and say you have a 24-inch ride, it sounds like a normal ride then. That's what I found. But that thing's really fun. I'm really surprised about how fun the electric kit is.
Yeah.
I've used those for quite a while now, like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's funny because so you bought those when we were still renting in the top floor, actually. That was when we were there.
And the guy was downstairs.
Yeah, so we had someone living in the basement, like a different renter. And so you looked up how to build essentially a platform that would be a little bit more soundproof.
I still have it.
And we still have it. We still have the drum kit on it, actually, because when you first got the drum kit, you put it on the ground. And I don't remember where it was coming from, but there was a nail. And every time you played, the drum kit kind of moved a little bit. And there was this huge scratch going through the floor in a house that we were renting. So I started panicking. So you stopped. We built this platform thing, which is just like wood and tennis balls. The foam noodle to hold the tennis balls in place.
Yeah, so it's an isolation floor, technically. So it's, what is it? It's 4 feet by 4 feet. So
there's 8 boards.
4 boards.
Well, there's 4 on the bottom.
Yeah, and then 4 on the top,
Then there's cut up pool noodles on the tops and bottom each of that's so hard to explain.
Each one has 9 tennis balls that it sits on.
Yeah.
And then the top of it, and so that's 4 of them. And I actually put more tennis balls underneath the throne, underneath the seat.
Yeah.
And then we put the carpet. It looks good.
It does look
good.
For
homemade, I think it's probably the best thing I've ever made.
Yeah. It's been very difficult every time we have to move it, because all 4 pieces of wood or whatever is attached by, what are those things called?
What are they called?
You were asking for them the other day for the hedges. Zip ties.
Zip ties.
Yeah, they're attached by zip ties. So every time we have to move it, there was one time where we just cut it and then re-zip tied it after. But it is tricky to move, that's for sure.
The great thing about that is, though, if we had it on the floor here, because we could have it on the floor here, we have a room with carpet,
I guess so, but I'm just worried about the...
Yeah. But the great thing about this is I put everything in its right place and I nail it into the thing so nothing moves. It's awesome. I've never had that before this, because, you'd put your kit on carpet, but then at my mom's, it was on concrete.
Yeah.
And I guess that was all it ever was.
With the acoustic drum kit, did you ever have to worry about playing it and it kind of sliding as you played it? Probably not, right?
Only my left pedal of the double kick, right? Because it's just sort of there. Okay. Sometimes I would have the hi-hat stand sort of one of the legs in front of it so it couldn't move, but then my hi-hat stand would kind of move a little bit. It's this whole thing.
But with the electric kit, I feel like ever since you got it, we realized unless you nail it down to a platform, it moves so much.
Yeah. But now there's those Joe Becky kits.
Is that electric?
It's the electric ones that are in real shells.
Oh, yes, you've shown me that.
And then they also have the cymbals that are real metal. So obviously it would be a little bit louder than an electric kit, but it's awesome. I want, Joe Becky, if you're listening to this, please endorse me. I want one so bad. It's so expensive. I can buy 2 top of the line DWs for one of those.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's expensive.
But now Roland also has their top of the line kit, which looks like a real kit as well.
Yeah.
There's another company that's doing it as well. I can't remember. There's a new one. Oh, I want this kit too. It's new. It's by the same people that did the ATV electronics. F-Note.
Okay.
That's what they're called. Oh, they are nice. Oh, they are so nice. There's the 7 series, which is like a black wood shell, and they're full-size drums, I think. I think it's a 20-inch kit, 14-inch snare. The toms are probably a little bit smaller, but they have a 20-inch electric ride.
Oh, wow.
They sound great.
Cool.
The problem with them is that there's just not so much customization you can do with the sounds.
Oh.
I want one of those, but it's 10 grand.
Well, it's cool to know that there's so many options nowadays, though. Like, I know it's expensive still, but as time goes on, those prices will hopefully go down.
Yeah, and the ones that I'm looking at lately are the top of the line. You know, the ones that I know I can't afford.
True.
You know, because there are the cheaper ones. One day, if I win the lottery or something. Or if everybody listening to this goes and just streams Loose Jennings, I guess. Actually, not even Alaskan Tapes. Just kidding.
Anyways, we'll wrap up here and we'll be back with another one.
Perfect.
Continuing on with your past aliases. And
Definitive history.
yeah. And if anyone has any questions or comments related to this episode, just send us a message on We All Speak in Poems
Instagram
account.
Yeah.
Or I guess we'll probably be putting it up on YouTube, but there'll be no visual.
Yeah.
Like there will be, but it won't be us.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
See you next time.